Hey there, welcome to another video here on this Esoteric Circle YouTube channel. Pete Haskins here. Wherever you were at on your journey, I hope you're well. Blessings to you. Today we're going to be talking about John Dominic Crossan's book called Jesus, a Revolutionary Biography. And I'm going to talk about the radical nature of Jesus' ministry and what it says about today and why the church is so dead. Thanks for being here. John Dominic Crossan's book, The Biography of Jesus, is amazing and highly recommend it. And there's this one chapter. Looks like chapter 3. I've just got my notes. I don't have my book here with me. Otherwise, I would be holding it up. But chapter 3, it talks about this idea of open commensality. Open commensality. The root word there is mensa for, it's Latin for table. And open commensality is, the definition is the rules of tabling and eating as miniature models for the rules of association and socialization, according to Crossan. So it shows the importance of how people eat, and where people are situated while they're eating. And Jesus disrupted this. This sounds small, but think of the passages when Jesus is sitting down, he's at a party, he's at the wedding at Cana, he's hanging out with prostitutes, he's hanging out with tax collectors, he's gathering up disciples who are zealots and tax collectors and throwaways, just common laborers, just everyone from society. He's bringing them together. And Jesus says, how about we just eat together, and it doesn't matter where we eat. Doesn't matter how we sit, where we sit. Doesn't matter where we're situated. And this threatened his society to such an extent, just this eating part. It threatened society to such an extent that they killed him for it. So Jesus basically says, let's eat together without using this map. This map, how society tells us where we can eat, who we can eat with, who we can associate with. And this threat to society is why Jesus was labeled a glutton, and then he was labeled a drunkard, and as a friend to tax collectors and prostitutes, Jesus was murdered. And Jesus was okay with exchanging his honor in the eyes of society in exchange for the kingdom, is what Crossan talks about. So here we are. Crossan talks about how Jesus was almost assuredly illiterate, peasant from this lower artisan class. He was in this society there was 1%, and then there was the of the 1%ers, of the landowners, the rich folks, and then there was the bottom 99%. We in our society have these stratification zones where we have middle class, lower middle class, lower class, upper lower class, all these stratifications. They just had really just one upper and the rest was the lower. And Jesus was at the bottom 15% of the lower class, of the 99%. So Jesus was way down there. So Crossan says, the chances that Jesus was able to read are very, very low. Most likely he was uneducated. Not to say that he wasn't a genius, but that he didn't have education. So here is this illiterate peasant who had this ancient dream of a just and equal world. And this is one of the things when I read this the first time, and as I've gone through this, I've taught this several times and reread it multiple times. But you just look at our society and you ask the question, is the church going to survive the apocalypse? And as the church And as Christianity, at least in America, really struggles with LGBTQ issues and issues of race out of nowhere, right? All these things are bubbling up in this world with climate change and AI kind of buzzing around us. And we're losing our soul because we're judging people. We're even having questions of what can our children read, book bans, and it's just insanity. And we must remember this. Jesus shook things up. Jesus shook things up, and Jesus made a lot of people mad. He made a lot of people mad. We must remember that Jesus was fighting for the kingdom on earth in the here and now. He wasn't worried about the future. He wasn't worried about the past. He was so focused, laser focused on the present. Spiritually, socially, politically, economically, issues of social injustice, inequality. Jesus was laser focused on what's going on right now. And I believe that we in these groups and areas where we're really into meditation and spirituality, we can lose sight of the physical Jesus. We can lose sight of the social justice warrior Jesus. We can lose sight of this Jesus who fought against the injustices of the world. We lose sight of that, and we must realize that if we're not fighting for the people who don't have anything, we're not really Christian. If we're not in the trenches fighting for the people who don't have anything, we're not really Christians. Remember this. If we're not out there fighting for the people that are the have-nots, and we're just worried about ourselves and about belonging to a group of people that make sure that we get the tax breaks and we have everything and we are living in a nice suburb and we're safe, if we're so worried about making sure that we're safe in this society that is not only threatened by AI and climate change, but threatened by one another, we can't even handle who we are as human beings. If we don't fight for those who don't have anything, how can we call ourselves Christians?